Hello again. I think this is Don Larson again. We're ready to get started. But before we started, just a quick note on our webinar procedures. Everyone will be muted during the duration of the webinar. Um, we do have we want to point out there's a little materials button where you can drag and drop product information onto your desktop, a little PDF. So we invite you to do that. And then also on questions, we also invite you to answer your questions at any time during the webinar or to ask your questions at any time during the webinar, as you think of them. And then we'll have a Q&A session at the end where we'll address all those questions. For those of you who are not familiar with Larson Software Technology, we're based in Houston, Texas. We were actually founded in 1984 as technology experts, products based and technology based on open standards like CGM and SVG and other open formats. In the beginning, we promoted CGM usage by a free CGM viewer, but now that CGM viewer we sell it for a nominal fee on our web store, and it comes in a couple of editions. We're a member of the CGM Open Foundation. We develop powerful 2D and 3D technical illustration products, conversion tools, viewing solutions, and all based on the open format. We were the developer of the first HTML5 CGM viewer. That means no plugin, that used to be such a hassle. We introduced the first CGM profile to assist with the standardization of the SVG file format, and we currently participate in the S1000D Graphics and Multimedia Working Group. On the next slide, here's a brief overview of our products and how they fit into conversion categories. On the left is the products that can do individual file conversion. They actually do a lot more, but they're individual file conversion. Then we have a group of batch conversion tools, and then an SDK, a software development kit for developers that actually want to build some conversion tools into their solutions. So with this said, that introduction, let me turn it over to David Manock for the main part of our webinar.
Thank you, Don. And good day, everybody. Thanks for joining us. The main focus of today's presentation really is conversion. So we're going to be looking at converting both 2D and 3D files. We'll look at the most common formats, 2D file formats, both raster, so bitmap images, and vector files. How you can convert those individually and also as part of a batch conversion process. We're also going to look at converting 3D files. Slightly different in that 3D is usually for repurposing the file. It will be as a 2D illustration. So you take the 3D model and create a 2D illustration from it. Or alternative, now you could actually use it as a 3D illustration. And we'll demonstrate all these things during the webinar. But with 3D, this usually would be individual files only. So we probably wouldn't recommend you trying to batch convert a number of 3D files, mainly because of the file sizes. So we're going to show you these in live demos. So hopefully everything goes well and you enjoy the webinar. Thank you. So some of the formats we'll be talking about today, probably a lot of you will recognize these. We've got a kind of CGM and SVG on the 2D side, vector graphics. We've got raster files, TIFF, JPEG. There's also PDF that we'll talk about briefly. STEP and IGES for 3D data import from CAD systems. And we'll also touch on GLTF, a format we selected to deliver 3D graphics to IETMs. So we see this really as the process. So you probably have a 3D CAD graphic or a 2D graphic that you need to change into another format. So on the 3D side, you're probably going to import something like a step or an IGES file from the 3D CAD system, convert that to another format, to 3D format like GLTF, to put into an IETM, or add value to it with annotations or animations. And then the other step from 3D would be to go to 2D. So remove the hidden lines, create a kind of a traditional black and white illustration, add annotations to that, and they would be like CGM or SVG files. Or in the lower part, we convert a 2D file from a, say, CGM, or you might want to go from CGM to SVG for displaying an item as well. Or you might want to take a TIFF file, a raster file, and convert that to CGM or SVG or PDF. So there's various scenarios, and we'll look at those and demonstrate those during the webinar. As we go down the line there, so you would also store these files somewhere, probably in a database. In S1000D would be a CSDB. And from there, you would go into your web browser or IETM to display that to the end user, be it a 3D file or a 2D file. But to do that, we really, or usually would have to do some kind of conversion to the file. So we'll begin with 2D. So we're going to convert some 2D file formats over to, say, from raster to vector or vector to raster. So there's just a quick, hopefully, diagram there that actually, or picture that shows the differences, where we have a vector, which is kind of Bezier curves or lines mathematically done, so a vector file. And then we have an image, a raster, which is really made up of pixels, little black squares, either black and white or in color. So how are we going to do this? So there's two really categories which Don spoke about of converting files. One is individually, so you do it kind of one at a time. We can take it from one format to another. And then there's a batch convert process where we would take a number of files, could be hundreds or thousands of files, and convert those in a batch process. So we're going to use some products to demonstrate this. Kind of the lowest common denominator, which is not low in kind of functionality, but is our viewer, VisX Pro. So VisX Pro offers a number of file formats like CGM and TIFF, where you could take a TIFF file and you could create a CGM file from it, but on an individual basis. It has no editing capabilities, so it's basically a viewer. Then we have VisX Edit, where you could again take multiple file formats, but this time you have the ability to edit them as well. So change them in some way before you convert them over to your new format. And then we have batch convert. Kind of our flagship product is VisX Transform, and that really handles multiple file formats from one format to another. But its main or its real purpose is to auto hotspot those files as well. So it not only creates one format to another, it also will auto hotspot both raster and vector files. So it's very powerful if you're kind of doing a project where you have to go from one format to another, and also at the same time hotspot them in, say, thousands of files at one time. And then we have some individual converters. CGM to image takes us from a CGM file to a TIFF file or a JPEG, and then CGM to vector, which is very popular where people wanted to go to SVG, so CGM to SVG file format, and PDF to CGM. Again, a very popular product because it will take a multi-page PDF and extract each graphic out as its own individual CGM file. And then another popular product is from going from 2D CAD, say DWG, to CGM. So these are all batch, as I said, batch processes, so you can convert hundreds, thousands of files at one time. So the first scenario we'll look at, or use case, is converting raster files to say CGM or SVG. So probably the most popular ones you'll see are TIFF and JPEG. So this is, but you could also have PDF as well, which contains raster only. So the most common kind of scenario would be to take those raster files and convert them to CGM, SVG, or PDF. Sometimes people make this assumption is that when we do this conversion, we actually convert or vectorize the file. And that doesn't really happen, so because these file formats support raster inside them as well as vector. So as I said, CGM, SVG, and PDF all are capable of supporting both file formats at the same time. So it doesn't automatically convert a bitmap image into a vector image. It just stores the file as its original raster. We call those a hybrid file. So just to look at that in more detail. So CGM, which has been around quite a while and part of the S1000D standard, it's compliant with S1000D. It stores the inside the CGM file the TIFF as a TIFF file format, the raster file. So it maintains both sets of information. With SVG, slightly different. SVG is an XML file, but it stores the raster file in as a JPEG. So it still maintains those two separate data types. With PDF, I'm not quite sure what the raster format is, but it is able to store both raster and vector together. And PDF is the only one of these formats that can also include 3D data as well inside it. So just a quick, there's a big interest in SVG, especially within the S1000D community. And there's some good news regarding SVG is that the Graphics and Multimedia Working Group for the specification have now documented SVG and a specific profile for it. We actually participated in this group, and the work is complete and approved, and it will be introduced into the next version of the specification, issue 6, but there's no formal release date as yet. The new SVG profile, when released, it will supersede. We created our own profile because we really needed it to do interoperability in our own products. Tech SVG, that will be superseded by the S1000D SVG profile. And this will really give the opportunity for vendors and users to standardize on SVG and the way it's created. So let's look at some demos and show you how some of these things work. So I'm going to start here with, this is actually VisX Pro. So I've got a file open already there, which is a TIFF file. So I've opened it in VisX Pro. And now I can do a save as, and I could save it as a CGM file. So as I said, it doesn't vectorize it, but it just puts it as a CGM file, which then I could use in my publications, or it'd be standards compliant. So it's very straightforward. We can't edit any of this. It's just basically taking it from one format to another. If I go to File and Open again, this time I can look at the file formats that VisX Pro supports. So CGM, DWG. So if I wanted to bring in a DWG file, I could just go to my folder and say this particular DWG here. Let's just open it up. So this has got layers on it. So this is why we see this strange thing with text. There's different languages, but the graphic is intact here because, and now I could save that as a CGM and then take it into my editor, perhaps, and then work with it. So this is the only downside of VisX Pro, is it really just views the file. I can't do any editing in here, but I can obviously save out as a CGM file, and then these are vectors because it's DWG. I can then work with it. So that's VisX Pro. So the next software is VisX Edit. So again, we're going to be converting individual files here. The big difference is though I can edit. So it's a fully functioning technical illustration tool. If I again go to File and Open, VisX Edit offers a lot more options really for file conversion. So we have a lot more file formats we support, so we can go from one file format to the other. So if I just go down the list here, it's quite small, but we've got CGM, AutoCAD, again DWG, GIF files, JPEG, PNG, PNG, TIFF, SVG, EMF, and BMP. So we support all the main formats in here. So I'm just going to start off with a DWG file. So I'm just going to go back to that same file I opened in VisX Pro. Let's just open that up. Select DWG here, or all files. So this is the same file I opened a minute ago. And you'll see immediately that when I open it in VisX Edit, there's a lot more options for me. So here I'll see all the layers and so forth that are within the DWG file, so I can actually determine which ones I'll bring in. So the text that was overlaying there a minute ago, I can choose not to bring that, say the French and Spanish text in. I think there's also like a German one as well in here. So I can just determine which ones I want to bring in, and then there might be something for the title and legend and so forth. So then I could open it up just by determining what I need really. So this time you can see the text is clear, and the actual graphic is editable, so I can move it around and work with it. So that's the benefit of Edit, but we're still only actually converting files individually at this point. The other formats that's supported in here are raster. So if I go back to demo here, so if I say the TIFF format, I opened the TIFF format before in the viewer. Again, I could resave it as a CGM, and I can do the same here, but the difference is here that when I bring it in, if I double click on it, I can start working with this file. So I could actually edit the image back in Microsoft Paint in this instance, and then work with it within here, add vectors to it, or change the annotations. So that's the benefit really again of VisX Edit. So I can work with the raster image and then save it again, say as a CGM or SVG file. And again, PDF. So PDF. So if you've got PDF files as kind of your only way back to creating from a legacy file, I can open a PDF file here and then resave it as a CGM file or an SVG file. So we'll just save as now, and I could save this as a CGM or SVG if I needed to make it standards compliant. And also, if it's a vector file, then I could again work with the graphics. So PDF really can, as I said earlier, can support raster and vector. So if it's a vector file, then I can work with it really easily, but we'd also see the raster as well, and then we could save that as a CGM file. So again, this is on an individual basis. And then one of the most common ones we get is where it's just really a CGM file. So, and we want to go, say, to SVG. So if I go click on my files here, let's just try and do this one. So this is a CGM file, but now I want to save it as SVG. This has actually got hotspots on it here. So we can see all the hotspots that have been created with the red rectangle. If I now save as SVG, then when I put it back into a browser, all the hotspots still work, so that we actually take the hotspot information from the CGM file, and it will populate the SVG. So that's really useful if that's where your browser's based on, is SVG as opposed to CGM. So again, this would only be on an individual basis. Okay, so the next software we're going to look at is VisX Transform. So that was VisX Edit. So VisX Transform is one of our batch converters. We really describe it as our flagship because it offers multiple formats, but also auto hotspotting. So it's not particularly exciting in the respect of different kind of drawing tools or whatever like that. It's just really straightly converting files. So what I've done here is I've already selected the directory that I want to import. So this is the input directory, and it's got all the S1000D byte graphics in. So what I want to do is add them all into the conversion window here. So it's this directory is already selected, and now on this side I'm going to select my output directory. So this is where they're going to go after conversion. If I go to my setting, sorry, under the settings menu up down here, then I can choose if I want to hotspot them or not. These are vectors, so I'm going to actually set it to hotspot only increments of 2 numeric characters. So you can do a lot of settings in here to determine which characters are hotspotted, because there could be some text or lines of text that don't need to be. It's just the call outs, for instance. And we also have some settings here if they're raster files, so we can determine the quality of the raster and also the character limits, their height, because there's no actual font size. We might want to just determine the number of pixels that it contains, and that will only hotspot those under that criteria. And then we have other options to go to PDF and EPS. So in Transform, we can really support different file formats as well. And then the output, here we choose what format we want to go to. So we go to SVG or to CGM or to PNG. We can go to a raster format as well. So we're just going to leave it at SVG for this. So we're going to go from CGM to SVG, and it will also auto hotspot. So I'll start the process. It just gives you a readout. It creates a log file, and it gives you, it's actually finished. There was no error. It will give you, if there's any errors, it will tell you if there's errors, and it's converted all those files. So let's just so here now, this is the directory I went to. So you remember output, and here we see all the byte graphics now in SVG file format. So very straightforward. That was only kind of 39 files, but this is obviously capable of doing a lot more. So you could do hundreds or thousands of files for your conversion project, auto hotspot, and take from one format to another. So that's VisX Transform. Okay, now we're going to look at 3D. So quick overview of the 3D file formats. So we would always advise probably using open formats. In the CAD world, probably the main formats are STEP and IGES. From our experience, these have been the best ones to use. The non-proprietary. You could try and use native formats, but if you're converting them, your solution needs to be capable of supporting those native CAD formats. So we would always advise use open. That's the best solution. So what are the use cases for 3D conversion? So in our industry or in technical publications, technical illustration, what you probably want to do is take the CAD model, the 3D data, and generate a 2D illustration from it, and then have it in a CGM or SVG format. So more of a traditional type illustration. say, a black and white illustration. Well, the other scenario is convert to another 3D format. So take the step and the IGES file, and from that, create a 3D technical illustration, add value, annotations, animations, and one of our selected formats for that is GLTF or GLB. So you couldn't really do that with the step format because it's just too heavy. You could actually try and do it, but it's just a very, very heavy format and probably not designed to go in an IETM. So as I mentioned earlier, the main formats are IGES and STEP that we use, and that's STEP is probably predominantly the one that our customers are using with VisX products. And they're very data rich and really give very, very good results, especially from 3D to 2D. Give you a really good quality file. And from our experience, all the major CAD systems support these file formats. So the question would be, why would I need another piece of software if I've already got the CAD system? And I think there's some very specific requirements on conversion that the CAD systems don't really handle very well. And one of them could be just from CGM to SVG. So, going to those formats straight from the CAD system, how you handle the model. So good data exchange options, easy manipulation of 3D model and the assemblies, generate those quality 2D graphics, and also easily create 3D illustrations as well by adding value with animations and annotations. So the CAD systems are obviously very good at what they do, but they might be kind of over the top for something you might want to do as a technical illustrator or technical writer. So back to the demonstration. This time, this is going to be VisX Edit 3D, which is our 3D software. As I said, both editing and we can go to 2D from it, and also obviously 3D. So quite a simple interface. I'm going to actually import a file. This is going to be a step file. So I can see here I've got a stp. .stp is usually the identifier of the file. I'm going to open it. This is quite a small file for demonstration purposes, so I don't want it to be too long coming in. So now I've got my 3D model, so I can maneuver it around. You can see it actually is 3D because I can move it around the screen. I can zoom in and out, and I can pan it around. So I'm just going to get it to an angle that I want to work with. And then from the tools here, I'm going to explode the model. So I'm going to do this manually. So what that means is I can just click and drag out this particular part away from the rest of the model. And then and then I might want to take the what doesn't want to move there. Okay. And then I might want to take these bolts and move them away. So at this point, I'm just kind of setting this up as an exploded view. So I'm going to pull these bolts away. Just move this a bit further. And I'm going to take this part here. So, oops, I'm going to just pull this down this axis. I can just reset that. And then I can drag down here. So from this, now I want to convert it to a 2D illustration, black and white, hidden lines removed. So I'll just go to export, CGM this time, and we'll save it. And here I get some options. I'm not going to go all through these. This is really to get the best quality we can out of this file. So we can have smooth edges and so forth, but we've added a new function here to actually fill these individual components with color. But I'm just going to do a straight conversion, and this will automatically go open in VisX Edit. So let's just say convert. So it'll take a few seconds or so to do the conversion. The more complex the model, the longer it will take. So here we're going from step to CGM. So a 2D graph, from a 3D graphic to a 2D. And there's our conversion. So now we have vectors we can work with. We can annotate the graphic if we want to put the annotations on. So we've gone from that 3D to 2D, and then we could save this as a CGM because we're back in VisX Edit, a CGM, or as an SVG to go into our IETM or CSDB. So really quick to convert, and we've got a really good quality graphic that we can work with in the 2D world. So I'm just going to reset that. And here we have an animation tab. So this time, slightly different. We're not going to go to 2D. We're going to leave it as 3D, but then we'll eventually go out as another format. So let's just say OK. So this time I'm going to explode the model, but you'll see down here I have a timeline. So I'm going to click my first part. I'm going to drag it out and apply that. So if you notice down the bottom here, it's added it to the timeline. So if I now drag the player back and then I pull out, you can see that the animation, it animates this. And I can stretch this out, make it take longer. And there's a lot of other things we can do in here. If you look back at some of the other webinars, you can discover more about the animation functionality. So for this, I just want to show you it is very easy to create these things, but also then we want to save as a format that we can then use as opposed to step in an IETM. So again, here I've applied that, so we should see the first part and the second part then explode. And just to prove it is 3D, so it's it's not a 2D animation; it's actually 3D. Okay, so what would I do with the file though? I would export it, and I would export it as a GLTF. In this case, I'm going to go GLB. They are one and the same thing, but GLB is a binary file, so it just means everything's encapsulated into one file. So I'm just going to, I would just save that, let's say, into our desktop. Just save it. There's some more options in here. I want to definitely keep the animations, so I'd export the animations with it. We can determine quality and so forth in here. Again, there's a lot of options. I'm not going to go into those today. And that's it. It's very, very quick. It's now done. So the possibilities now are, this is our 3D viewing technology, that you could have this file in your IETM as a GLB file. So we've gone from step to GLB or GLTF, and then we could have a procedure to this. So very easily you could create 3D animations or 3D technical illustrations. So this is obviously a web browser, and this is a VisX View 3D. So this is just for displaying the files. You can see there's tooltips and so forth as well that come through. Okay, so that is converting from 2D. Let's go back to our slides. From 3D to 2D, and also 3D. Sounds strange, but 3D to 3D. So the format we used there was GLTF. It's a very light format. It's one we did a lot of research on and selected. mainly because it's kind of compliant with web browsers. It's an open format. It contains a lot of the abilities that we might need, like annotations and the animations that we'll probably require in technical illustrations. There's no plugin required for viewing in a web browser, which is again very important. You can compress the files down, so that those files that are step files could be megabytes in size or multiple megabytes in size. They come down really small, so you can look at these on an iPad, a mobile device, very easily. And also Microsoft and Adobe have they selected this as one of their preferred formats, so it's got good backing from the industry. So I demonstrated via VisX Edit 3D there, and the fact that you can add value to the files, and there's metadata, so you got tooltips and things like that, very easily accessible. And as I mentioned, there's a 3D viewer, VisX View 3D, which we saw a few minutes ago. So you have the ability to view these files and those animations. So a quick comment, just to end this particular part, is that the S1000D Graphics and Multimedia Working Group have on the completion of SVG, have now moved on to 3D guidance and file formats. There is a chapter already in the spec, but I think that's due for revision, and the working group probably will do that. And so hopefully, not in the too distant future, there will also be a standard format for 3D data, because at the moment it's pretty much it's open to anything and everything. So that's not probably good for standards as we go forward. It'd be good just to output on one where the viewing technology is standard and so forth, and the file format is. So just to end, we looked at VisX Edit, but we also have VisX Edit Plus. VisX Edit Plus has some added functionality. It will do auto hotspotting on individual files, and it will also OCR raster text, so you can turn raster text into vector, into a proper font. But we've just added in, or will add in very shortly, a new function to Edit Plus, which is batch convert. So let's just bring that up. So in the version I was using a few minutes ago, which was the standard version, in the new Plus version, you'll have a batch convert option. So not only individual files, but you'll also be able to batch convert files. So it's very straightforward. The interface is you just browse for the directory where all your files are. In this case, what I did with Transform a minute ago was convert them all from CGM to SVG. I could do the same here. So CGM to SVG. Let me just see if I can pull up the directory for that I've selected. In fact, it's in here. So this is going to be the output directory. So I'm going to go from CGM to SVG, and let's just go. So a bit different in the respect of what it does is it opens each file individually and resaves it as an SVG. So you can you'll see that in down here on the right as it does it. So the speed won't be as great as, say, a specific thing like Transform, and it's not auto hotspotting them either, but it is doing that conversion, so within your editor. And it will support any formats that we support within the editor, which is really convenient. So if you want to go from DWG to CGM, you could do them all very quickly and then work with them. So it's complete. There's only 39 files, but it converted them all, and we now have now in the SVG format. So it's going to be under the file command, and batch convert. And then you can see that all the file formats supported in here are available. I can do a scale. We'll probably add more functionality to this as we go, but at the moment, it's going to be really useful if you've got VisX Edit Plus. If you've got standard, you'll be able to update your standard version to Plus if this is going to be useful. So you can always upgrade to the Plus version if you want or need this functionality. Okay, so that's brand new today. Users should be getting that probably towards the end of February. We haven't set a release date yet, but we're just doing testing at the moment. So just in summary, 2 and 3D file conversion, it should be straightforward if you're using open file formats. There's some considerations. Always select the most appropriate file format and you'll get the best results. Determine if you can convert the files individually or via batch process, and obviously quantity is going to be probably the main factor there. Do you require graphics to be hotspotted? Individually, you would probably use our VisX Edit Plus software to do that. If you need to do a lot of files, then VisX Transform is the best option. Always evaluate your file sizes, because even 2D, because that could actually mean that it's you need a better computer to do the conversion, more RAM, and that's especially with 3D files because they can be very large. And all those factors together will recommend what solution you're probably going to use to do the conversion process. And finally, as I said earlier, or just a few minutes ago, VisX Edit Plus is going to have that batch conversion utility in it very shortly, and all the supported file formats will work. So you can go from one format to another. So good news if you're a VisX Edit Plus user. And any of the products we've seen today can be evaluated. So you just email me or sales@cgmlarson.com if you want to evaluate anything, or go to the website and you can fill in the form. So you can evaluate any of the products as I've shown today: VisX Edit 3D, Plus, Transform. And then we have the individual converters: CGM to vector, CGM to image, PDF to CGM, image to CDM, DWG to CGM. Okay, so let me, hopefully we have some questions. And Dong's going to come back on and probably help me with some of those. So thanks for your attention. We have some questions here. And first one is, does your workflow work with any CSDB such as Windchill? It will kind of work with if you're storing the graphics within the database. So the CSDB or in Windchill. So if you're storing the graphics in there, then it depends on how that actually operates. But usually it doesn't work obviously the same as it does with XML files. So, but you can certainly store your CGM or any other probably format in there and manage them within the CSDB. Have we done any testing for a 3D animation compatibility with INCIV? INCIV is for people who on the call that don't know is an ITM for the Navy. One of our customers is one of the developers of INCIV, so we've already had conversations with them. It's not a 3D animation, so it's not a 3D viewer that we developed, but we were definitely working with anybody. It's open format. We publish all our anything we do to the format. So we'll work with those. And I'm not sure if any compatibility tests have been done at the moment, but our developers definitely in talking to their developer. Can you change the look of the callouts in VisX Edit 3D? Uh, yes, you can. Um, I'm not going to go back to it now, but um, Andrew, if you can hear me, you can reach out to me, and I can give you a demo of that if you wish, offline. Well, online, but just reach out to me. Will they be enter specific distances when repositioning parts? I think that is. Um, yes, you can. Again, probably something I could demonstrate better in a specific demonstration, but you can put a distance in that you want to move the part. Another question here. Do you find that people have an experience with complex CAD systems? Not really seen all that question. We have a new interface for GoToWebinar, so I apologize. I can't see everything. Don, do you see that one? You there?
Let's see.
Yeah, it's the one where it's CAD. I'm only seeing it very.
Oh, yes. Do you find people who have experience with complex CAD software find that Visix 3D interface too simple or basic? Um, we haven't, no one has expressed that, but I can see where you're coming from. Um, I expect the product is fairly new, and we've been taking suggestions and implementing a lot of those suggestions as quickly as we can, because if they're good and it make it more useful, we obviously want to do that. So we would like to get some more specifics on that.
I would say that to me, I wanted it to be simple and basic because if you're looking at a 3D CAD system, it can be completely overwhelming. But if it's too simple and basic, what we'd like Don just mentioned, it'd be good to get your feedback on what you think is missing, because we want it to be very easy to use. That's our main thing, and not clutter it with things that are not really relevant. So that's our kind of strategy really for the software, is to make it really simple to use, but not too basic in its functionality. So so if you want to add functionality, we're really open to hearing your suggestions on that. Another question, this is back to Visets Edit Plus. Does it recognize characters from a raster file? Yeah, yes, it does. Visets Edit Plus does. So again, if you want to reach out to us, and we can give you a demonstration of that. But basically, you have a raster file. You can select an area of text, and it will automatically OCR it. It will, the quality or the ability to do it is based on the raster file. Is it of a reasonable quality that enables us to do that? If it's really really bad, then it would be difficult to get a result from it. But you can always test that as well, and we can give you an eval of the plus version, and you can test it. But the results have been really good, haven't they, Don, from the OCR in Visits Edit Plus?
Yes.
Yeah, and then it's a lot easier to maintain the file and also hotspot the file as well. So yeah, good question. Thank you for that. So hopefully we've answered all the questions. If you feel that I've missed something, then please, come back. I think. I'm sorry, there's one more here. Let me just. In the gearbox procedure, are the steps stored? Yeah, the steps are stored within the animation, and then you can interpret those in the viewer to create the connection to the buttons. So it's just as they're automatically added to the GLB file. So it's like a mark, like a bookmark almost. Probably describing that very well, but it's almost when you create that step within the animation, it's like a bookmark, and then you can call that up within the viewer. So I think that's all the questions. Yeah, I think so. If we've missed anything out and you think of something else later on, please reach out. I mentioned if you haven't got my email already, you can email me order on or support at cgmlarson.com or me personally, and we'll try and answer those questions. So thanks for your attention today. I hope you've enjoyed the webinar. We have recorded it, so we'll send you a link to the recording. So you can always send it to a colleague if you feel it's relevant to them. But we really appreciate your time, and please reach out to us if you have any questions or you just want to evaluate it or discuss the products in any way. Thanks again, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.